Hey, it's Ruby. Welcome back to my channel and to the top 10 worst books of 2024, which what a bummer. I try not to be super negative about books and stuff on here, but sometimes things don't work out. Reading is so subjective. I have a lot of really popular books on this list, so it's also not that like all of these were just complete garbage. No, it's just some of them didn't work out for me. We do have three categories and I'll talk about them as we go through, but first, a little disclaimer: if your favorite books are on my worst list, please don't take offense. Reading is so subjective. We all have different tastes and we all like things that are different and unique, and that makes us different and unique. So please, I beg that you don't take offense if some of your favorites are on my list, because we all have different tastes. But I will try and explain why these didn't work out for me as we go along. So let's start off. I don't own any of these books because whenever I don't like a book, I will unhaul it. Why am I going to keep something that I don't like? So I unhauled a lot of these. These are not rated in any particular order. I didn't like any of them, but they are grouped. So our first batch of books is what I'm calling disappointments. Not necessarily terrible books, they just disappointed me for one reason or another. A lot of these are the second book in completed duologies. All of these are second books. I was just let down. I was disappointed. So let's talk about it. So starting off our disappointments, Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This is book 2 in the Letters of Enchantment duology. Book 1 was Divine Rivals, and I read Divine Rivals and I liked it. I was a little harsh with it in the reading vlog, but I did like it. I did love the romance between Roman and Iris. I thought it was absolutely beautiful, absolutely stunning. The way that he loved her made me fall in love with their love. But at the end of the day, I thought I was going to get a romantasy, and it very much read more like a historical fiction romance. There was not much fantastical elements in there. Like, there was maybe the mention of some monsters and some gods, but we didn't really see anything. So I was super excited to hear that in book 2, Ruthless Vows, we were going to get those fantastical elements and the plot was going to move along. I was finally going to get to see the gods, because this book was allegedly the battle of the gods, but where were the gods? They were not on the page with us. So moving on to book 2, we finally get more of the story, more of the plot, and it was just not giving. It was a letdown, lackluster. I wasn't a fan of the plot. Where it went, I was just very underwhelmed. And then also, I didn't believe the war. I felt like we didn't spend enough time with these gods, especially the girl god, to even, appreciate it. I feel like this could have maybe been a trilogy and been more fleshed out. But as it stood, I just really didn't like it. And then what I loved of book 1, the beautiful romance, we couldn't really have in book 2 because of what was going on. Understandable, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the only thing that I liked was the romance, and it wasn't there in book 2. So it was just a disappointment for me, and I unhauled my beautiful UK editions because there was just no need for me to keep them after I just really didn't like Ruthless Vows. Next up, we have another duology, another very popular duology, Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. I read One Dark Window, book 1, because everybody was raving about this duology. Everybody was like, wow, this is her debut novel. It's like so good. The gothic elements in there were just masterfully done. The writing, people were raving about this. And I read One Dark Window and I liked it. I thought it was a good book, a solid book. I didn't love it, but I did like the like spooky atmosphere, the the story. I liked it. I liked the characters. I liked the magic system. I thought that was really intriguing. I liked the romance that we got. It wasn't like overpowering of the story. It was very tasteful and I really liked it, and I wanted to see where it was going to go. Like I said, the magic system was unique and interesting. So Book two, everybody was like, this is even better than the first one. And I just did not get that. I was very much super bored and underwhelmed with the plot. And then again, the romance was not even like fleshed out. I felt like it was very much abandoned and then revisited for a second at the end just for the sake of saying that we saw some of it between Elspeth and Raven. My favorite part of Two Twisted Crowns was Elm, but it was just not enough. I wanted more of what the first book gave me. I felt like, I don't know, I wasn't super invested in the nightmare story, I guess. It just kind of lost me overall. The characters, the plot, the magic system, it just didn't hit in book two. I just was bored with it. The resolution, everything was just boring to me, underwhelming to me, and that is why it was a disappointment to me and made it onto this list. And again, of course, I unhauled it as I did every other book on this list. So that was unfortunate. Next up on the list, another duology, another end to the duology, book two, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent, which was book two of the Nightborn duet in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. That is a mouthful, but if you're not familiar with this, we have the Crowns of Nyaxia series, which is a total of 6 books with like a novella. Maybe we're gonna get more novellas, but they are told in duets. So we have the Nightborn duology, and then we're getting the Shadowborn duology, and then the Bloodborn duology. And this is the first one, the Nightborn one. The first book was The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I really liked that book. I ended up giving that one 4.5 stars. I thought it was fun. It was giving me Hunger Games. There was some trials. There was vampires. There was humans. There was a magic system. Like, was it like the best book ever? No. Was there a couple of little like plot things in there missing? Maybe. I was so excited to move into book two because of the way that book one ended. I was like, where is this going? What is she gonna do with it? And unfortunately, just like with Two Twisted Crowns, she lost me. The plot lost me. I was bored and underwhelmed, and I was just ready to be done with it. And the way that things are tied off, I was like, this is boring. You know, it comes down to that these second books to me were just not as good as the first ones. And, you know, obviously I like the first ones enough. Divine Rivals, what is it? One Dark Window, The Serpent and the Wings of Night, enough to go on to the second one. And the second one just really disappointed me, let me down. I didn't love anything about The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. And I did not unhaul it only because I actually do really like The Serpent and the Wings of Night. And then the novella, Six Scorched Roses, amazing. The best novella I've ever read. And it just sucks that The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King was just so boring. I don't even want to go on to the rest of the books. I haven't even read the new book that's out in the Shadowborn duet because I very much disliked The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King that I don't even want to go on. And I haven't heard great things about it either, so maybe I'm not missing out. But yeah, that was another one that just disappointed me. Next up on the list, we have, you guessed it, another book two in series. This one is Vilest Things by Chloe Gong. I read Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong, which is said to be an Antony and Cleopatra retelling. And it was good. It wasn't great, but I was intrigued. The way that it ends, I was very much wanting to go on to book two. In that one, we have our main character, Kala, is a princess who killed her own parents and ran away. She essentially just like brought down the regime and then booked it out of there. And we pick up book one with her being an adult and kind of coming back into the light, participating in this like brutal tournament to the death, literally, in order to meet the current king, her uncle, so she can unalive him and get a job done that she started when she was a child. So it's intense. It's intense. She meets this guy as you would assume. And yeah, we get this reveal at the end that led me to want to continue on with the series. Book two, boring as hell throughout the whole book. Again, I don't know. These book twos are not doing it for me, and they lost me. I was just so bored. I felt like we went nowhere with the plot. And then she ends it again, like with book one, with a reveal that makes me want to read book three, but I'm not going to do it. This one, I am abandoning it. I'm not going to go on to book three. I want to know what happens, so I'll just probably look up someone's like review, like spoiler review, like to know what happens, but I'm not putting in the work because it was just such a disappointment. And I really don't think that it's worth continuing on with this series. Moving on to the next category, which is what I'm calling, why did I read these? Because I knew that these were not going to be for me. They're genres that are just not for me. Or, you know, just there was something about these that I knew, Ruby, that's not your thing, girl. What are you doing? And I still read it. And guess what? I didn't like them. So let's move on to the second category. First up, we have like the least offender in this, Bunny by Mona Awad. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to dislike this. I thought it could go both ways. Either I was going to be one of the girls that got it and loved it, or one of the girls that just didn't get it and didn't like it. And I obviously did not like it. I mean, I felt like I got it. It was weird. It was a little bit more like satire-ish. But all in all, I just thought the story was kind of stupid. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think that it was revolutionary. I didn't think it was just, you know, I guess I didn't get it. So I don't even know how to talk about this book. We follow our main character, Samantha, who is attending this like prestigious university, and she's in like the writing program, like the fictional writing program. There's like fiction writing, and then there's poetry. And she has like seminar with all these people, and there is this group of girls that call themselves the bunnies. There's three girls, and they all call themselves the bunnies, and they literally address themselves as Bunny. They're like, hi Bunny, hi Bunny. And Samantha is kind of intrigued with them. She's kind of got a love-hate thing with them. I feel like she doesn't know if she wants to be them or be with them, or hate them. So she's got complex feelings about these girls, but they end up inviting her into the fold, into the bunnies, and she becomes a bunny herself, and our story takes off. It is freaking weird. They're weird. The bunnies are on something the whole time. They're so weird, and they're doing these like rituals that I actually found the most interesting of the book. But yeah, the end, the way that we got those reveals at the end, I just felt like it was just sad, and it was just like not what I wanted to read. And you know, I guess I didn't get it. I guess I didn't get it. And so because of that, I unhauled my copy, and I gave it such a bad review. I was a little harsh with this just because I was mad of how things ended, but I feel like I should have given it 2 stars, and I rage gave it 1 star, but I really didn't like it. But definitely an unpopular opinion because I know a ton of people really love Bunny. So yeah. Next up, we have 2 that I should have known better. Like, I should have known that these weren't going to be for me. But the first one was a recommendation by Reagan, or Peruse Project, which our reading taste is never the same. It rarely is similar. I think the only thing we share is our love for Celia Moreno Garcia. But, you know, our taste never aligns. I just watch her because I like her, not because our taste is the same. And so she was talking about Phoenix Unbound, and I decided to give it a try because she talked about how the story was really good, and this was her type of romantasy. And honestly, I didn't really care about the romance. Like, I could have taken it or left it. It was there, and it was mid. I didn't love it. I didn't love their love. The premise I thought was cool because in the beginning of the book, our FMC is essentially, she's like a fire witch, And every year, each little village has to send a sacrifice to the kingdom, which super sucks. And she is her little village's sacrifice every single year. How? Because she's a fire witch. So she just pretends that she's being burned to death, but she never actually dies. She does go through excruciating pain though, but she never dies. And then our MMC is this like a kind of an heir to his tribe guy, but is currently being a slave, gladiator slave. And she breaks him free and their story takes off from there. But I just felt like it had a lot of potential, but essentially the plot got pretty boring. And I felt like the story just got boring. I really was not entertained. And because I didn't care about their love, I needed the plot to hit, and it didn't. I just felt like it was just boring. And yeah, unfortunately, this one didn't work for me. So yeah, I will be continuing on. There's a book 2, and I like the character for book 2, but no, I'm not gonna do it because I just did not like this first one. And then the last one in this category is Vampires del Norte by Isabel Cañas. I picked this up knowing that I might not love it. So this one is like, this one's on me because I knew that it was more historical fiction romance than horror. And I had heard a lot of people already say that even though it was called Vampires of El Norte, the vampires were just very much a subplot. The focus wasn't about the vampires, and that was true. But I just found that I didn't care for this love story. I proceeded with it because it does take place in El Norte, and I am Mexican American from South Texas, very familiar with the north of Mexico, having traveled to the north of Mexico throughout my childhood. So I just felt like maybe it would work for me, but it very much didn't. Again, I was pretty bored throughout the whole thing. And there was just nothing that I really enjoyed about it. Nothing that I hated, but it was just very forgettable. And I just was like, I shouldn't have read this. Like, there is just no point in this book for me. So yeah, definitely disappointing and kind of boring, unfortunately. And then we've reached our last category, which this one is just the I should have DNF'd you category, because while I was reading these, I was like, oof, something didn't work for me and I should have just DNF'd them, but I pushed through because I always try to push through. The first one in this, and really like the least offender again on this one, is Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. This was part of Bookshelf Ultimatum. And the whole point of Bookshelf Ultimatum is to give books a shot that I really would not pick up on my own. So good thing for Bookshelf Ultimatum. It serves its purpose. This one wasn't like super bad or anything. I just didn't love it. It just was like, pretty mid for me. I think if you like treasure hunting and like treasure maps and more of that vibe, then you'll like this book. But I wasn't really into it all that much. And then the romance element in this, I felt like they miscommunicated and they don't speak for years and years and years. And then as soon as they meet again, they do the adult thing and they sit down and they talk immediately right off the bat, but then they forgive each other instantaneously. And I just didn't believe the romance. I didn't buy into the love, and I didn't love the story. So I feel like her best friend, I could get behind a book about her, and I enjoyed her more than I did the main couple. So this was just like a letdown. I should have just DNF'd it, but I pushed through because it was part of a reading vlog. So again, not like the worst book ever. I just was like, you should have DNF'd that one, girl. And then the next one, this one was interesting. It's Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan. So this one I was enjoying. I thought it was cool. I liked it. So we have our FMC, who is a single mom, and she's just like living her life. She's, struggling as a lot of single moms do. And she ends up like being newly divorced. She writes a script. She's a screenwriter. She writes a script based on her divorce, and it ends up getting sold to like a major like production company, and they want to film the film in her home, and she agrees to it. So the big stars of the film come to film in her home, and the guy ends up asking her if he can just stay for like an additional week because he's just going through it and he needs a break, and she reluctantly agrees to let him stay because she could use the money. And yeah, romance. But I really enjoyed the book until I didn't, because there is this miscommunication in here. There's this thing that this one character does, and these two could have just picked up the phone and resolved it, but they didn't. And oof, it pissed me off so much that I unhauled the freaking book, because if you've read it, then you know what I'm talking about. But that just made me so mad. Like, really? Really? No. And I unhauled it. And then the last book on the list is The Teacher by Frida McFadden. The story was mid. It was just more the fact that, I mean, we have a book called The Teacher. I think you can kind of imagine what happens just based on that. But yeah, there is an icky romance in there with an underage student, and I was not about that life. The book was already mid, and then throw that in, and I was like, ew. I just got the ick, and I was like, no. And then like a lot of people were like, wow, that end, that reveal. I was like, really? Because I thought it was pretty freaking obvious. So, it just didn't hit. It was just a lackluster thriller. And so, yeah, didn't love that one. Glad I just picked that up on Libby, so I didn't even have to unhaul that one. But yeah, those are my 10 worst books of 2024. I did have 3 DNFs in 2024. The first one was Butcher and Blackbird. I started that and I could not do it. I was like, what the hell is this? It's ridiculous and cringy. And I DNF'd it. Lessons in Chemistry, I wasn't into it. I read the first 5 chapters, decided it wasn't for me, and parted with it. Nothing major there. I was just like, it's not for me. DNF'd it. And then Goddess of the River. This one I read over 200 pages. And I couldn't push through because the story shifted into something else. And I was not liking that something else. So, yeah, 3 DNFs. Not bad. But yeah, let me know what you thought. Again, if some of these were your favorite books of the year, please don't take offense. We all have different reading tastes, and I hope that I kind of explained myself and why I just didn't love these. But let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know what your worst books of the year were. I know some of my favorites are some people's worst, and that's okay. Let me know down below, your 10 or your 5 or your one worst book of the year. I would love to know. As always, thank you so much for hanging out today. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you very soon with another one. Bye.